stories. Then by the time I got to secondary school, I upped my game a bit. I was drawing comics with my friend there, Aida Oluwagbemiga. We used to draw comics a lot. And but what happens is, as you grow older, you discover that you don't have too much time to keep drawing and writing the story at the same time. It's far easier to simply just write the story. So I started writing stories, writing some poems, got into university, joined ANA, joined some other organizations, kept on reading, kept on growing, and here we are.
And then after that, you moved along and you became a publisher.
Yeah, my publishing journey started from a disaffection with the publishing industry. So I saw several things I wanted to change.
Okay.
And everybody who is a writer would know that people who have been publishing and stuff, it's very hard to find writers who have not wanted to create change in the literary industry. Easily, I can mention Dr. Kabura here and KIS to my left. There are several things we did not like in the industry, and we tried pitching ideas to organizations. Personally, I wrote to some publishers. But what changed it for me, what made me to go and register a company was where one of the guys told me straight up that, sorry, it's your idea. They're really good with it. I'm not sure my other will agree. That's okay, fine. Can we just give it a short try or something? That's sorry, we can't help you. So what's the next thing to do? It's not like I don't have any ideas, or it's not like I can go and look for the funding to at least push it forward. So that's what started my publishing journey, which is not so different from several other publishers. Like I mentioned, KIS had the same experience. He published his first book. That was 2012, I think, 2013. And it was a rough publishing experience. And you feel like, wait, what is this publishing thing? People doing it? It's not like they have two heads. So you just jump into it and you keep moving on, bringing in your novel ideas and hoping that you don't end up being like the people who you are criticizing, or the people who were doing things wrong.
So I was going to ask you about that. So one time I heard that publishing is basically like just designing a book and then it's editing text.
I wish.
So like designers and editors.
No, it's far bigger, and I think that's the problem with us in Nigeria, because most people, when they set out to become publishers, they just have this idea that it's a very straightforward thing. Once I collect the book, it's not just a deed we print and put it out. But it's bigger than that. As a publisher, you should be able to stand up for your clients, so to say, depending on which sort of publishing you're doing too. Because there are different types of publishing. You have a traditional publishing, which is where you take the work and do everything. The person is not even paying anything for it. And there's the hybrid version, or before the hybrid version, you have the independent or assisted publishing, where people pay you for their publishing, and the hybrid version, which is a combination of the two. So it involves, the proper publishing involves being able to put out, your books that you have published. Like we had 2 books on the NLNG list, nomination list this year. One by the Diana and of course Memory and the Fall of Water. We might not have had that if we did not put the book out there. So it's often the work of the publisher to look for these opportunities and then push the works in your stable to these ones. And if you even have other people within your flock, you look for what opportunities matches them. And you can reach out to them and say, hi, I just saw this so and so thing, and I think this so and so work that we are considering to publish for you is a good fit.
This means that in this case, in this scenario, the publisher actually acts like as an
agent of sorts, yes.
Okay.
But like I said, it depends on what type of publishing you're doing or what type of publisher you are. In Nigeria here, considering the climate and considering that every publisher needs to have another job, publishing is usually a side hustle, because publishing alone cannot really take care of your bills. So where publishing is your side hustle, there's a limited time that you're giving to it, so it affects a lot of things. But in an ideal world, you're meant to be able to do all of these things and more. as a publisher. Certainly publisher. We do all of them. So we do the independent publishing, that's independent or self-assisted publishing. We also do the hybrid version and we do traditional publishing. However, our traditional publishing is done in such a way that sometimes we make an open call. Other times we actually headhunt. So we look for somebody that's really good and we get the person's manuscript, we work on it, and do everything for the person basically. But at the moment, we are not accepting manuscripts because we have hands full. Not to also mention that the climate is a bit tough. We would have wanted to do more and take on more people, but weather is quite hot in Nigeria, so there's a limit to what you can do.
So two things that I actually would like to clarification on is, so first of all, why you got into publishing was to not say no to a couple of people and have the same reasons that they said.
That's not the reason why I got into publishing. I got into publishing because I was frustrated by the things I was seeing, and I wanted to create a change.
So that you're hoping to be more open to the writers coming to you.
Well, it wasn't a matter of being more open. It was more or less implementing the ideas I had, because there are certain things that you can do, like being there more for your clients. Being able to have more quality products, because even the quality of work we were receiving from some of these people, you can't pay so much money for crap. Like you pay somebody good money. If I pay you good money, at least there should be value for the money. But I pay you this money and then I still get something that's crap. It doesn't make much sense. Yeah, and of course, also the thing of being able to create opportunities, because on the one hand, when we started the publishing company, we also started a charity that surveys literary and development initiative, through which we've been able to do a lot of things. We host the Learning Book and Arts Festival every year. We do reading campaigns. We support authors. There are lots of prizes we started, which we are trying to maintain. We are trying to even introduce new prizes at the end of this year. And like I mentioned earlier, it's not just us. It's not like a single thing. There are several people who have the same disaffection. KIS has the Feast of Words, which he runs every year. He has the Conscious magazine and other things. So it's just that frustration that has driven several people. As our people started Parisha Publishers, it was almost the same thing. Yeah. So what we try to do often is to create that balance, to get some funds from the independent publishing and your other hustles to try and support these other things you're doing for literature. I mean, as you would say, we're doing it for the culture.
Yeah. So just from hearing about the hustle that is when it comes to publishing, how do you make profits from the sales of books? Do you make anything?
Yeah, do you make profit from your books? I'm not sure we do. I had this conversation I'm referencing these people because these are practical things that happen every day. These are conversations we have almost everywhere we go to. The climate, the sales climate in Nigeria is really tough. Publishing, printing, which is what takes most of the money, is really, really expensive these days because we import paper. And naturally, importing means you're hinging everything on the dollar. And just see what's happening with the dollar. So that means we are having to pay so much money to print. So again, if I was to sell this book to you at say 5,000 naira, it would be difficult for you to, well, not maybe not you, because I mean you had that, but the common average Nigerian wouldn't want to carry 5K to buy a book like this because there are other competing demands. We don't have we have to buy fuel. We don't have food. We need to go and buy food. We need to do all these other things. So there's that challenge. The only way that sometimes you can break even is if you have schools recommend your book, like universities, or if you're on one reading list or something. In that way, you're able to sell a good number of books. Or if you find a good benefactor who wants to, use your book for one project or the other, that works. Also, if you're fortunate to be on a list, like if you're on the prize list, whether it's the NLNG, whether it's the Association of Nigerian Author Prizes, or any of these lists, you find out that more people would want to read your book because they believe that, okay, for this book to have been selected for this particular prize, there has to be something in it. So let's buy this book. So if you have that kind of thing happen, you discover you're able to sell more books. But the long and short of it is, it's often very hard to break through when it comes to publishing in Nigeria.
Right. So having understood how tough that is, the last question I have in publishing is this: what jumps at you at a manuscript? Like what jumps at you as a publisher?
Yeah, well, it's not just one thing. The first thing, it's a combination of things. One is the person sellable. Because there are some people who might not be able to write the quality material and stuff, but they have the name already. Chimamanda, any day. If Chimamanda writes anything, even if she wrote something about her grief and it was a bestseller, somebody is just writing, my father died, my mother died, they paid me. All of us were rushing to buy this. So the first thing is we need to go for that sellable person because the person has a name. And there are several people like that around us. Person could be a politician, person could be a celebrity, person could be even a superstar writer like that. So that's one of the first considerations because it's always about the sale.
So that's why Becoming by Michelle Obama was such a huge success.
Oh, I think it's a good book.
Yeah,
I mean, we're being recorded. I think it's a good book. Really? It might be a good book. It is a good book, but you can't take away the fact that
it's the main book and it was just such a huge sensation.
So you can't take away the celebrityship because think of it again. Hillary Clinton has like 2 or 3 memoirs. All of them have been bestsellers because Hillary Clinton is the brand. Obama has, when Obama wrote, what's that his first book again? The Audacity of Hope. It didn't really go well. In fact, they had to keep most of those books in warehouses. But immediately Obama became president, they reissued the book and it sold out. So it goes to show that, sir?
That's a point.
Indeed, indeed, President of America. So we look for people who are marketable. But in Nigeria, again, it's hard to find marketable people in that sense, because those people who might be marketable are probably looking up to bigger people. They want to go foreign. So it's like, no, I don't deal with Nigerian publishers. People's quality is not up to par and stuff like that. So they'd rather go to a place where they'll give them a quality that is similar to what we have here. But it's Oyibo, Oyibo stuff is always better. You'll be able to say, I published this book in the UK. And that also helped us at the point. It's just that I decided that, okay, it doesn't make sense to keep being dishonest. Because people will see our books and go like, did you print this abroad? At first, I'll go like, no, we did it here. And they're like, okay, wow, you guys tried. But by the time I started saying, yes, we did this abroad, people were more welcoming to that. So first, the marketability of the person, then also the quality of the manuscript. There are some stories that are compelling. And if you see those stories, you know that, okay, this kind of story, if we work on it, it will be able to go places. And some of those sort of works, we also carry them knowing that we can coach them for prizes. Because like I said, prizes sell. And you know that, okay, if you put this book and it gets into this or that competition, we'll be able to sell more copies of the book. So in the first instance where you have the marketable client or candidate and the person's work is not that good, you can get the work, you can edit it to what you want it to be, you can even rewrite it. The key thing is this person needs to have a book, and that's why in some cases you find out that these big people, these marketable people get ghostwriters.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Oh, there are more than a couple of them. It's an everyday reality. And it's not just a Nigerian thing, it's a global thing, it's everywhere. In fact, there's a movie with that title, The Ghostwriter or something of that nature. Lovely movie.
Right. So that's enough on publishing. We've heard a lot about, because this is still a book that
we're talking about books now.
Yeah,
we're publishing books.
That is one side to Su'eddie, and the main side to Su'eddie that I think a lot of us at ELS are very interested in is the writer. Right? So at the top of my head, Raphael mentioned how many books? 10 books that you published?
10 books.
Sorry.
Oh.
So think
I said four.
and then 10. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So
Around 10. Yeah.
so memory and call of water.
Mm.
So I just like to share.
There are several. It depends. What would you want me to read? Because this is a book of 98 pages, so we have at least 60 poems that I wrote. If I wrote them, I actually love them.
So you don't have any right.
No, I don't. Achebe said that thing now that asking somebody to mention their favorite book or favorite thing from a book, it's almost like saying you should choose which one is your favorite child. It's not fair. It doesn't make sense. So if I say this one is my favorite, some other people might think that the other ones are not that.
Yeah. So we do like a random collection. 3, something from the very first 20 pages, something in the middle, and something like that.
Hey. Okay, since we had, let's start with Let There Be Light. It's from page 15 of Memory and Call of Waters.
Okay.
So, from a story most of us know quite well. It was our genesis, the beginning of a continuation of our potential's quick exodus. Then every ruler shouted promises like the Lord, speaking our hopes as we heard their crackling voices rise. Let there be light. Trust our non-existent power authority. The darkness pervades our lives, wearing us blue. The problem has changed name corporation turned to a million discos, promising bets, dances, and a beauty bloom. It was the twin of Fox Freedom that gave us the power of grating noises as we back above generators or hiss at the dark. Indeed, we brew thunder and fat noises which amount to zilch in our hydroelectric dreams, projecting our collective sustainable deterioration goal. A drunkard preaches the politician's book of Revelation. The harvest will come of our dams. Yeah, we'll surely reap several dams. Addendum, Genesis 1, verse 3. And God said, let there be light. Neighbor replied, Mban.
All right, so before we proceed to the next one, I'd like to have the audience react to that. Raphael, we can go first.
We have to wait now.
No, I mean the entire piece because I found it very relatable, and I think that one of the reasons why you were laughing at the end is because that was very. I mean, we had a similar scenario here with the.
Okay, yeah, I like the registers all through. I like that the registers, like the allusion was chronological, like from when it was NEPA to when it was PHCN to when it became the digital companies. I just like that it followed that same chronological path, like how the creation story was. So I also like what he did with the SDGs. I think it was unfair though that he did that. But yeah, it was just beautiful hearing a page poem have so much humor.
Any other thing?
Yeah, I have a question.
Right.
It was a nice piece, but one phrase that caught my attention was where he said the drunkard preaches politicians' revelation. I want to know the inspiration for that. It sounds so grand, almost or very big one. Let's get inspiration for that.
I tell you that. Now, in that particular place, I think there are several things that are playing in my mind at that particular place. Because what happened there was largely some playing with words, playing allusions and stuff, and also what happens every time. Like how we always have those promises. I mean, we've heard it several times. When I come, they said, was it in the 80s, there was someone who actually said he would ensure that we would have milk coming from every tap and all those kind of stuff. So there are several people who have promised us light. Even our current administration had told us that within a few months, we'd have light, we'll have this, we'd have that. But there's the revelation. So the revelation there is also alluding to, the biblical revelation, if I can use that, because there's the Genesis, Exodus, etc., revelation. But it's also something that we all come to see, that after the election season, by the time they come to power, we're like, yes, well, dams working, and then damn. So that's just the whole premise for that line. Hopefully, it's not going to be prophetic. Our prayer is that we've had enough of the promises, and we'll get to see. Next time we'll be shouting hallelujah instead of damn. That's the prayer. Indeed. Somebody you do pay. Okay, yeah, you want me to read one again from the middle.
Yes.
Question is,
forget about the agenda, because to me that was the best part. Back up, take that back. Yeah. Ending. I hope it's part of the point or not.
No, it is. It's here. It's here.
Okay, thank you. I like that.
Wasn't an ad, you didn't just add it.
It's a lie.
I can read one easily. But the question is, should we go dark or should we go sexy? So in my in my memory, there was this when I was preparing, there was this poem. It was actually meant to start with a Don Williams song. You know Don Williams. We know Don Williams.
Which of this song?
Yeah. And the years come and go, and tonight your memory is gone from my mind. And I would like to see you again. So this is Converging Skies and Shadows. We walked down a dried riverbed, our laughter echoed the emptiness of sand. Suddenly the skies converged, you found your feet. The clouds covered the morning and rain swallowed the ground. And from all corners watched every footprint. That was us. Your memory is dead at the riverbanks. The winds compete, but silence holds my hand and drags my weary feet to despair. At the final plunge of day, darkness stretches an invitation. Macbeth's dagger points to my heart. And in the rendering, not in the book, in the rendering, there's the Shakespeare line that comes, out with candle. Life is but a walking shadow, all player that struts on the stage upon his time. A tale told of an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Yeah.
The combination, especially I'm not a Shakespearean fan, but every once in a while I hear a bit of Shakespeare and someone's writing about like in a quote and it makes me appreciate him a little more. But I'm not a Shakespeare, like I'm not a fan of Shakespeare.
I mean, his English is too archaic. If you can find something else.
I think it's well loved by people. I think it's harder even to find people who don't like Shakespeare.
Oh, really? I beg to disagree.
Where have you been looking? Who wouldn't like?
Yeah, some people
They
do
always
like
are quoting Shakespeare is like, yeah.
I think it's just respect. Love, I doubt.
No, I think it's politics. So Shakespeare has been entrenched into our consciousness. We've been forced to read Shakespeare all through. There's no way you can write WAEC or NECO or JAM without reading Shakespeare. So it's like what they feed you, and by the time you're in secondary school, you have to cram it, and they are showing you the beauty of it, and you put it in your head so that you go and write it. You are brainwashed into thinking you like him, but maybe in reality, if you encounter him, in that light, you would have liked him. So if it was maybe Chinua Achebe who was put there, or were they showing how any of these other people, you get to appreciate the person that well. And that's one of the beauty of recommending books for schools, which eventually put into the syllabus. When we're writing WAEC and JAM that year, I think we read Abiku, we read, can't remember the other, we read Robinson Crusoe, Tales of the Orville's and stuff.
Oh.
And it's hard not to read this thing in that critical manner, because if you have a really good literature teacher, the person is going to teach you to appreciate that work and to get the meat of it. So somehow you fall in love with it based on how you're made to appreciate it. So I dare say that if we are given any book, if any student is given any book at all, no matter how bad it is, and the person has a very good teacher, the person will fall in love with the book. So being brainwashed into loving Shakespeare.
I do, because nothing could have got me to love
agree.
The Old Man and the Sea. Nothing. There was nothing.
I think that's a good book.
I actually love
Just like me,
I love that.
in chemistry now, I prefer Oseya Ababil to the other, to the other ones. Even physics, I prefer new school physics to PNOKK and the rest. So it's my teacher that made me enjoy those.
Yes, I'm not saying it's a general rule. There's always an exception to every rule.
Yeah, because I think that I mean, I grew up not liking Shakespeare, but then eventually at some point I found out that there was like a whole group of people who had started like this sort of cult against Shakespeare, and it was weird because like there were only ones. And so from my interpretation, it's always been that, people were, like very, very, you read a lot of great books and the pages start with like quote by Shakespeare or something. So that's
when you had a conversation earlier about things to discuss in poetry, I heard something about mind and brain.
Yeah.
So we talk about mind and brain poetry. And one of the examples of people who have been able to do mind and brain writing is Shakespeare. For you to be able to, why I'm thinking the love or the respect for Shakespearean poetry or writing is not just first, is that if you get introduced to Shakespeare and you're somebody who thinks, you will discover that on all levels of literature, where you would say you want to judge the quality of the work, Shakespeare scores 100. Let me just say 80 on every field. So when you talk about somebody who writes a poem and his excellent poetry in terms of expression, he has measured his lines, and then he now converts it into a play, and it works well as a play. And he converts it into a story, into a movie. Every of his works work out well. You can call maybe his contemporaries or people who are also very popular, and you'll find them scoring high in one form of work. Say maybe Yeats, for example, who are also very famous and well studied in school. A lot of people took on Yeats the way they took on, or A.U. Usman, the African one, the way they took on Shakespeare. Well, we only got two of them, two points from each of them. And we still stuck with Shakespeare because it intrigues you on all levels. That's how I see it.
It's very arguable, and we can go on and on about this.
Yeah.
If you actually study the history of literature, you get to see how they decided to entrench this. There are several other people. My argument is not that he's bad. I'm basically saying part of the reason why he's more known, more loved, is because he has been introduced in that way. The same thing could have happened with Christopher Marlowe if they had put him, because if you go and read the works of Christopher Marlowe and other contemporaries of Shakespeare, like you said, there was a certain way that all of them were writing. It was really good. But they decided that, okay, let's canonize this guy, and it has continued to today.
And we do it even in our writing field. Like we canonize somebody as this person, as the person in this field. Even though we have other, like in Nigerian writing, we canonize actually who's my favorite writer anyway. But nobody knows that there's Iyayi, there's a whole lot of people that have written fantastic bodies of not just one work, but we don't know them. If I ask you, do you know Festus Iyayi, you probably would say no. But this one has a body of excellent work.
But I think I thought
Isidore Okwewu and but we've taken Soyinka as the Yoruba one, we've taken Achebe as the Igbo one, and probably what is this name for the northern one? Akali as the northern person. We've made all of these people the classic, and now we're choosing maybe Aida Adam as the northern person. And so we take it, then we take the dadas. So
I think
people
I think that has changed now. Because I think for a while we had that with Chimamanda, but like at the top of my head now, you can name Damilare Kuku, the one who wrote Nearly All the Men in Lagos Amad. There's just so many coming up at the same time.
5 years from now, she mentioned and say if she doesn't use another book, that you stay. We are actually trying for every generation. But why I'm still insisting on Shakespeare is like this guy had more than one. He was a performer as well. Like it's hard to. His work was seen as a part of the royal family activity. Royal like this. It's hard to not make him look like the only creative work. And then it was not like everybody had a way they go and read poetry like this. Yeah. It was performances like that. There were truths built out of his truth that performed his work in other places like that. So it's like.
Mr. Kabura would like to say.
Yeah, there were not so many. There were not so many. It was easy to. This man, he was like a historian too. Because he records his history in his work.
Dr. Kabura would like to comment.
School literature is really different. And when you say you were brainwashed, I think that's you. Because they speak to you. I don't think you brand people that have been brainwashed like Shakespeare. It was part of my school. By the way, when we started school, it was English literature.
Yes.
But by the time we were leaving school, it was literature in English. So that changed a lot of things. But we read Macbeth, and that encouraged me to look for any Shakespeare. Right. So I wasn't brainwashed. I really liked it. And then when it comes to teaching literature in school, there are some books that lend themselves to teaching in schools. And some books, no matter how wonderful it is, you may not enter the classroom because there is something that you need to teach literature in English. And sometimes it's tough to teach some works in the classroom. So sometimes we look for the works that are teachable to convey a point. So I think that we're all right. You could not like something, but it's on the page. Particularly in Nigeria now, that what gets this syllabus is who knows who.
Exactly.
And so it's tough for us. I mean, for the kids now, but for us, I think we had a lot of opportunities. And when it was literature, they were teaching us even the nursery rhymes. They were all English nursery rhymes. Everything was English. Yeah. And then when it became literature English, started looking for African and Nigerian things. That's when we were doing. I went to the animal fair and all those stuff. But when we went to literature in English and they introduced Wesibril, they had introduced Wesibril in my school. I think it was in Form 4. There was, I think there's no level, what do they call it now? SS3? Yes, no, it was Form 4. And SS1. And if they had not introduced Wesibril in our syllabus at that time, I wouldn't be there today. So again, it all depends on. So I don't think we should be absolute. We can talk about our experiences, but we can't generalize.
But in a way, it's almost things like what you said is actually the point is making. It is what you're exposed to that builds what you're interested in. And if the quality is poor, maybe it will not last with you.
Yeah.
So because we had Animal Farm, and I don't think a lot of us read George Orwell, like when we now adapt to Shakespeare. So much.
Yeah. So we had what do you call that guy? The mayor of Casterbury.
Yes.
I dropped it. As soon as we finished it,
I picked him.
So it all depends on what sticks to you. When we read Animal Farm, I liked it, and I any George Orwell book I find, I will read it. So it's all about.
Like Dr. Kabura said, it was a combination. Like all of us were right, it's a combination of everything.
That's been discussed in school.
So just and now to yeah. The last one.
I was going to read the Raunchy one, but let me just read.
Yeah.
He's shy.
He's shy.
He's shy.
Are we not a people?
I'm C14, please.
Because I was actually going to go for the inspirational one, but since we want to go for the Ramsey one, let's go for the Ramsey one. Let it be noted that I went for inspiration, but everybody else decided we should go for the skinny one. Okay, this is when minutes give birth to eternal declarations. The caveat or the explanation is after the polls and sentiments of the tenure, page 72. And I always insist that this is a political poem, even though several people have actually said it is not. But as we said earlier on, it's always about the person. It's up to your interpretation. I behold her as she looks to me. Somewhere hidden screams with fire. She strokes my pipe for water. This fireman shall rise to the quest. It's political. Her painful breasts and I write a poem where I have no rest. The thoughts of the onion bulbs slowly rubbing up against the linen that is her shirt. I take lips to kiss the cheeks like the master. Faint sigh escapes and my tongue transfers loyalties, refusing to sell greater passions for 30 pieces of hurt that will kill higher desires. You rock away without reason, senses locked to midlands where thrusts answer lusts that keep pounding. Finally, two animals are released, then calm. Quenched sensations, restoring senses that declare divorces, mourning will cement.
I'm sorry, how is this political? Like, I want your political take.
Let me put it this simple. It's very simple. There are several people who go around screwing and doing stuff, selling their votes, for instance. And then what happens in the morning? You discover you've been screwed.
I think there's somebody in the morning.
Well, it depends. Again, this is representative.
You wake up this morning.
Have you? Now when you wake up, you're good morning.
You wake up after 1 week, 1 month,
1 year, 4 years.
Because we're actually in that season now where we're in the manner of speaking, romancing with politicians, having sex with them, and there's something that will happen eventually, depending on how they are cut. When the elections come, after the elections, what will happen? So I think that's where we would have, if we are not careful, we might have the divorce or something else. Hopefully, it wouldn't be divorce.
I mean, is there anybody else who thinks that it was political?
Everybody does. I think.
Well, the best of poems have more than one layer. Like if a poem is, well, some poems are very basic. Maybe they play on some
I
but
couldn't really connect the onion bulbs and the shirts.
he made a mistake of telling us in the beginning that it was a raunchy poem. So you came with
I think you could hear when he said the onions against the chest. I think that was really.
Actually added the addendum thing up there because again, who knows where this thing will go to? If my child decides to say it somewhere, or my pastor sees it somewhere, I can go like, no, it was just politics we were discussing.
I think
that it was.
But again, it depends on where you read it, how you read it.
And when you read it.
Exactly.
And when you read it.
They said to the righteous, everything is righteous. To the pure of heart, righteous.
No.
To the pure of heart, everything is impure.
Why are you pointing that way?
I'm going to stand here and then pick a personal one to read. Russell, would you like to start?
Go after you. If I would like to go.
Would you like to read a page?
the spoken word people here should come and read.
Joy.
The spoken word people now. Yeah.
Joy.
So yeah, we can just take because it's a book on poetry book so that short poems. So we can we still have a bit of time so we can actually take turns. So I'm going to read a very short one. It's called Dream Space. So he said, I painted pictures across several dreamscapes, taking faces to a fertile future. A sun struck rapidly down the glass. Somewhere in a maze of infinite obscurities, time uncloaked age, the slow flare of the soul's rage. Very short.
That's all. I'm waiting for my Wow. Really patient. So
You can actually just scan for the
Yeah.
one.
Can it part of the point? Doesn't have to.
okay, okay. Seems wrong. Oh, we can. I don't like that one. That's so good. Okay. Okay, this one starts up. This is page 26 and it's titled Stars Out. Starts the quote. The stars went out and so did the moon. The singer stopped playing and went to bed. Lansing Hughes, the weary blues. So this is the point. The stars put out their lamps, leaving the sky gray. Morning compensating, smile, a clear ball. The moon compensating, smile, a clear ball, different from yesterday's banana. We stayed at eternity with you, but just as our hearts counted a second, the night rolled its march, beginning the reality of day. Who's going to?
No, it's fine. Thank you, Raphael. So so this is from for everybody joining us late. This is from Memory and the Call of Waters by Su'eddie Agema. Do we have any more questions for Su'eddie? Any questions? I just wasn't. How long will it take?
It depends. Though. I think there are several variables to that. One is your manuscript even ready? Because from experience, several times you find people who go like, man, this work has been edited by so. It's Professor this and that edited my work. And then when they come and give you that manuscript, you find out that there are so many holes. In fact, it's usually those professors so and so. They are about the worst manuscripts you have. And you're going to have to start working on the whole editing process afresh. But if the manuscript is ready and everything is good to go, it depends on your pocket. How fast can everything go? It depends. That again depends. So now, 30 pages. It depends on numbers of quantity. That's the quantity, not numbers of quantity. Grammar. The quantity you are aiming for, the paper type, is it cream, is it white, is it art paper? Also the cover, is it going to be embossed, is it blah, blah, blah. So there are several variables to it. So it also depends on who you're publishing with and where the person will be printing. Because if you're printing in Abuja, definitely you're going to get a very, very wrong price. Because Abuja prices are up there. But the person is printing from a different place, even somewhere as close as Makurdi or Ibadan, Lagos, the price would also be different. So it's very complicated. But the only thing I can say on that is once you're ready with your manuscript, approach any publisher, and the person will be able to give you a proper one.
I think that's what we're asking. We want to come to you.
Okay. There's no average cost.
That's it. And then there's several variables. There's something you not mentioned. Also, what you as the author, what are you looking for? What services are you looking for? Because the mistake people don't make, which we too made before when we were authors, is you give a book to somebody who can give you a print. You are now an author publisher. Like You give a book to somebody who can actually do only printing.
Yeah.
You give a book to somebody who can do publishing. And they give it's different from giving somebody who do publishing, printing, and marketing. They are all different things because marketing can be more expensive than actually the work the money invest in printing. And publishing, when I say publishing now, from the design to editing to going to printing, can be a much more expensive process if the manuscript needs to be cleaned up. Cleaning up of the manuscript can be more than the whole publishing cost itself, depending on how bad your work or how good it is. So there's a whole lot of things that the thing is print your manuscript. That's just it. You may think you're printing and then they end up adding you 20,000 words or deleting 50,000 words from what you've written. Because this doesn't make any sense. So let's cut it, let's add it. By the time you do that, maybe 8 months are very fast.
Yep.
Yes. And sometimes you get plagiarized works too.
Indeed.
So you start going back to them. So it's not, you can't determine the cost.
Everything from the manuscript.
It's manuscript.
So the manuscript dictates how long.
Yeah, so but just arrange from for the smallest book of any book quality, arrange from 200,000 to 1 point something million to 5 million. Like for the smallest book. No.
It depends, like we said earlier, it depends on the quantity.
Yes.
Printing takes a lot of money from
Yeah, so it depends on one, the quantity, because if you're reading copies of it, I mean, naturally nobody is going to collect 200,000.
Because there are some basic things that will happen, whether you're printing 1 copy or 1,000,000 copies. There are some things that you must do. You must do the cover. You must edit the work. You must lay it out, whether it's 1 copy or 1,000 copies. So those costs will be there, whether you're printing a few or many. That's why when you see the difference between 250 and 500 copies, it's like so insignificant. Then between 500 and 1,000 copies, it's also not a double. The number of copies is double, but the cost will not be double because those basic things are the things that are going to be there. It's broad.
All right. So thank you everybody for the questions and for contributing, and thank you so much for reading and telling us a lot about publishing. So this is a pre-festival event. I'm sure a lot of us are aware that the Abuja Literary Festival begins from the 7th of October to the 8th of October. And so this is like the first event to welcome in the festival and just get us in that festival spirit. And so because of that, what is usually like one event in the book jam we had to such one of the reading circle, and the first we just concluded was the book jam. So we had a paper passed around for anybody who wanted to share stories and read. It's here. So the paper is still here, but from the last time, what we're just going to do is instead of putting pressure on people to, all right, so basically, you can just decide or signify if you want to read or share something with us as people start going, so there's no pressure. If someone is, I
wrote my name there, but unfortunately, I've been trying to if I can get before about that.
I will let me please.
Well, I can't find.
I will represent you.
He's going to place. So how it goes is
That's unfair.
all right.
Accolades.
Oh, okay, sure. Yes, so we'll do that. So basically, we're just going to start the circle with the first few people, and after anybody reads or shares, before they share, they introduce themselves and they tell us about the book or the poem, and then they read it out and they tell us what it means to them or why they wanted to share it. And then after they do that, we can take turns in reacting to that. Like, what did we think about it? How do we feel about, the piece that they shared? And yes, you can even ask questions and all of that. So we can make it like a very chatty reading circle. So the first person here is Sheung with the beautiful ones are not yet born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's smiling.
Let's try it.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Sheung.
My name is Sheung, and the book that I would want to read from is the beautiful ones are not yet born. Unfortunately, the part that I wanted to read, I could not really, the part of the chichidodo, that's chichidodo bird. I couldn't really get it for online. So I'm just going to read like the first, maybe chapter 1 of that novel. It's a classic. And I remember reading it in secondary school. And ever since I read it, I've not been able to get over it. The use of symbolism to represent the corruption of that time, that's post-independence Ghana. So, and even the main character is so big and it's so abstract because there's no name. It's just the man throughout the book. It's just the man. So there's no name to the main character. And that's added to the feel of symbolism and the kind of effects that the story can have on each reader. So I'm just going to read chapter 1 now. So the lights from the bus moved uncertainly down the road until finally the two big circles caught some indistinct object on the side of the road where it curved out in front. The bus had come to a stop. Its confused rattle had given place to an endless static shudder, as if pieces were held together by too much rust ever to fall completely apart. The driver climbed down onto the road from his seat, took a crumpled packet of Tuskers from his shirt pocket, stuck a burnt cigarette in his mouth, and lit a match. The head refused to catch. However, there was only the humid orange glow as the driver resignedly threw away the stick and took out another. After the third try, a yellow flame spotted briefly. The driver caught it quickly with the end of a cigarette before he died, cleared his throat, and spat out a generous gob of mucus against the tire, and began unhurriedly to inhale his smoke. Inside the bus, the conductor took down his bag and slowly rubbed his neck just above the patch where the long strap had been pressing down. Then he sat down heavily with his legs dangling down the front steps and closed his eyes. The passengers shuffled up the center aisle and began to lower themselves gently down, one after the other, into the darkness of the dawn. When the soft scraping of sleepy feet on the hollow metal of the steps had stopped, the conductor sat up, his eyes wide open, took his bag from off the floor, drew from within it his day's block of tickets, and laying this on the seat beside him, poured out all the money he had collected so far beside it. Then, checking the coins against the ticket, he began to count the money's stake. It was mostly what he expected at this time of the month. Small coins, a lot of pesawars, single brown pieces with some fives, a few tens, and the occasional 25. Collecting was always easier around fashionable. Not many passengers needed change. It was enough of a struggle looking around corners and bottoms of boxes to find small coins somehow overlooked. So mostly people held out the exact fare and tried not to look into the receiver's face with his knowledge of their impotence. Collecting was certainly easier, but at the same time not as satisfactory as in the swollen days after payday. There was not much in it at a time like that. True, people were still only bodies working in their sleep, but what could a conductor take, even from a body that has yet to wake, when all this working corpse holds out is the exact fare itself, no more, no less. Much better the days after payday. Much, much better. Then the fullness of the month touches each old software with a feeling of new power. The workers sleep still, but their nightmares in which they are dwarfs unable to run away, and little insects caught in endless pools. These fearful dreams are gone. The men who dreamed them walk like rich men, and if they give a 50 pesewa coin, they look into the collector's eyes to see if he acknowledges their own importance. They do not look into their palms to see how much change is there. Much better the swollen days of the full month. Well, much better. The conductor separated the money into little piles and saw that there was not a single 50 pesewa coin. No wonder. The coins had yielded nothing. He had not thought they would, but then sometimes a simple check like that could reveal even profit. It was not very likely, though, that he would make anything from the coins today. There was something still. Someone had at this time of the month held out a Sseptember for his pen. He had looked into the face of the giver, and sure enough, the eyes had in them the restless happiness of power in search of admiration. With his own eyes, the conductor had obliged the man, satisfied his appetite for the wonder of others. He had not lowered his eyes. That would have brought the attention of the potent giver down to the coins in his palm, and the magic would have gone, and with it the profits. So the conductor had not lowered his eyes. Instead, he had kept them fastened to the hungry eyes of the giver of the Sseptember and fed them with admiration. He had softened his gaze the better to receive the masculine sharpness of the giver's stare. He had opened his mouth slightly so that the smile that had a gape in it would say to the boastful giver, "Yes, man, you are a big man." And he had fingered the coins in his bag. Okay, I will round up. So I think this is just like the last paragraph.
Okay.
Yes, man, you are a big man. And he had fingered the coins in his bag, and in the end placed in the giver's hand a confusing assortment of coins, whose value was far short of what he should have given. The happy man had just dropped the coins into his shirt pocket. He had not even looked at them.
Thank you, Shem. You call it slide. I think you gave us a little bit of
The everyday struggle, like for the struggle of the average man in Ghana, that's post-independent Ghana. So when Ghana attained independence, things were kind of like slightly difficult, and unlike Nigeria where we started well, Ghana didn't start on a good note. So there was a lot of corruption, and this portion that I just read, brought out the sort of struggle that they have to go through, and every man trying to how should I put it, living it like a fake life. They want to be known as a big man, and in reality they're not that big. They're struggling like everyone. So, but the part that I would have loved to highlight is the bird, which is a bird that likes to eat maggots, but eats the feces that the maggot comes out from, and it's a representation of you living in a society that is corrupt or in a system that is corrupt, and you want to be kind of absorbed from that system, and you are in that system, and you can't run away from it, but you're trying to be maybe a saint. It happens in our society in Nigeria where people tend to, how should I put it, I'm looking for the right word. Maybe the holier than thou people that we see in society. You are part of a system where you're trying to be holier than thou. So you're like the chichi dodo bird. You don't like the feces, but you like the maggots. So and there's a character in that book, Kamson. Kamson is a rich guy. So okay, I'll round up. So Kamson is a very rich guy, and he hated poverty. But when there was issue around, there was a crackdown of the corrupt people, and he ended up escaping through the feces that he hated, or the poverty that he hated. So let me just round up.
Thank you so much. Do you have any more takes?
Actually a very fascinating book. We read it in secondary school. We've had several conversations on it. We've had two. I think what the book does for me, it's really interesting that this book was published in like 1957 or so. I can't remember that. It's a very old book, early 60s, yeah. So there's a part that he was going to get to, which he didn't get to read, where the conductor ends up insulting the passenger, because he finds out that the passenger was actually sleeping, and then there was saliva rolling down his mouth. So this guy was like, so after all this guilty conscience you've been able to build in me, you're actually sleeping. So insults him, and then that's where we're introduced to the man who is a humble guy. The man goes on the streets, and to compound the issues, before we know what's happening, one can nearly hit him. It's not bad enough. The guy ends up, of course, well, the guy insults him anyway in some unprintable stuff. So I think it's the kind of book that anybody should read. You didn't mention the author, Aida Oluwagbemiga. Aida Oluwagbemiga is one of the foremost African authors. The guy had one serious quanta with Achebe at some point. So if people can even go and read on that quanta, it's really, 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 really lovely to also see how in those days writers used to be yabbing themselves, because Achebe will go like, you're claiming to be a Ghanaian, nonsense. And this guy will be like, there's a certain somebody who thinks he's the father of African literature, but the person is as good as trash. So yeah, if for nothing else, if it's not even read the book myself, you can go and read on Aida Oluwagbemiga or something like that. Still alive, I think.
Nice.
Stuff
like file. Or okay. Any more takes?
Yeah, Jackpot.
Any more takes?
Yeah. I really like this one. For me, it's like a construction of things that we had stuff like big hospital jobs and without the silver spoon. All those kind of pictures, big hospital guy, honest guy, but you didn't want to know more that because no matter how honest and corrupt you are, things will just turn out well. I mean, throughout the man, he enjoys education, enjoys fun, and in the end, the only appreciation he gets from his wife, who previously was always talking, but when somebody saw what happened, now I don't worry about it. But that was the only so that society still went on. It was more like the government was the change government, but the new community was no, and that's where that's not the book comes from. And it means those who are the good people in society have not come to that society. So it was more like a punch to the face to go and the corruption message. And you don't think that just because you're corrupt and society doesn't have to change. Have a happy ending. But it's a really a dark story. And a respectable moral, but I really love it. Okay.
Yeah. So sorry, I was actually going to ask, because the concern for me is when Aida Oluwagbemiga wrote about the beautiful ones and area, I actually believe that the whole question of corruption and society not working in Africa was actually a bit dynamic. Because Aida Oluwagbemiga, for instance, is one of the biggest critics of the Kwame Nkrumah's administration. in which I also believe that most of the mistakes some people made at that point was not properly situating the context of the African leaders at that point. Nkrumah, for instance, while he was trying to stabilize the economy of Ghana and, of course, proposing industrialization in the entire African continent, the Western world were trying as much as they could to make sure that the economy wasn't working. And of course, as we all know that up till this moment, the West still controls the media and they tell the story the way they want it to be told. So there was actually that projection of Nkrumah that I actually didn't like, which was the fact that as much as the guy was trying to make things work, the Western power was trying as much as possible to make things not work. By making sure that the price of cocoa in Ghana was always dropping. And historically, Nkrumah actually got to that point where he made sure that, okay, if you're in my administration and you're not willing to make sure that you focus in government, you should resign. And some of his cabinet members actually resigned. And he was even committed to the point that even in terms of marriage, he had to marry from Egypt to make sure that there was that tie between him and Abdel Nasser, to keep the whole relationship going. So my concern is, I think Koyama was too concerned, in quotes, with driving the whole narrative of the failure of the system to the point that he actually failed to discuss the vital issue at that point, which was the question of the struggle of decolonization and how the imperialists were trying too much to make sure that the African leaders actually looked like a failure. And I also feel like, to a certain degree, what we complain about as poverty porn also started from that kind of mentality of not trying to understand the political dynamics of the external forces at play with the whole system at that point. That notwithstanding, it actually doesn't mean that Koyama is not an amazing writer, but I just feel that he actually failed to, yes. Thank you
so much. Has anybody here read the Master and Margarita? Master and Margarita. It had the same journey. And it took me back to the thing we said about how what you read inspires like what you write. Because sometimes I notice that even with authors and literature, a lot of them, it's the books that they read before that sort of like influences like the route that they take. So sometimes if you know a book that came out before and you sort of like where that inspiration comes out. So the Master and Margarita is sort of a Russian literature that had that same effect where like things just but I was going to compare that. And for me, I think that listening to the bits that he just shared, because I've not read the book, it made me just see that things still haven't changed from the time that this book was written. Like same state of poverty, the decrepit and decadence, like with people and the economy, especially now, is still what it was then. So it made me think about that a lot. So
the contrast in Ghana's situation is, I think they started, compared to Nigeria, Nigeria started well, and Ghana started badly. But along the way, they picked up. Especially when
I think
especially what's his name? Especially when this man took over. Please. Yes. When he took over. So
I think we should just end this thing here because
just the feedback.
Thank you.
That's not true. That's not true.
And that's why they were coming to Nigeria.
All right. So the next person on our list is Zara. She's going to be reading Community of the Spirit. It's a poem, sorry.
Everybody.
Hi, Sarah.
So, as Aida said, I'm going to read Community. I was drawn to this poem. I was watching The Night Gospel, which I don't know if you guys watched it, but it's like a cartoon sort of based off of this podcast by
Duncan Trussell, and he's the person that did like Adventure Time, and you would think that, oh, it's just like, you know, a silly little cartoon, but he really goes in depth about like spirituality, life, living like the best way to live your life, the purest way to live your life, ego death, all of this stuff. And yeah, I just started watching the show at like this time that I went through this like really dark period, and coming out of that, there was a particular episode all about like love and forgiveness that one of the characters read this poem in, and I went to find it, and the person that wrote the poem, Rumi, is like he's like a spiritual guru without kind of like wanting to be. He just wrote a lot of like poems and people really connected to it, and I'm one of those people. There's a bit of like controversy surrounding the poems because it was translated from like a native like Indian language by an American, but like there's a whole thing about like the guy having his own thing and then getting fame from it, but that's like besides the point. So yeah. A community of the spirit. There's a community of the spirit. Join it and feel the delight of walking in the noisy street and being the noise. Drink all your passion and be a disgrace. Close both eyes and stare with the other eye. Open your hands if you want to be held. Sit down in the circle, quit acting like a wolf, and feel the shepherd's love filling you. At night, your beloved wanders. Don't accept consolations. Close your mouth against food. Taste your lover's mouth on yours. You moan, she left me, he left me. 20 more will come. Be empty of worrying. Think of who created thought. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? Move outside the tangle of fear thinking. Live in silence. Flow down and always. Widening rings of pain.
What if people at Atlanta really hear you?
Sorry, I'm not good at like public speaking. Let me take it one more time. A community of the spirit. There's a community of the spirit. Join it and feel the delight of walking in a noisy street and being the noise. Drink all your passion and be a disgrace. Close both eyes to see with the other eye. Open your hands if you want to be held. Sit down in the circle, quit acting like a wolf and feel the shepherd's love filling you. At night, your beloved wanders, don't accept consolations. Close your mouth against food. Taste your lover's mouth on yours. You moan, she left me, he left me. 20 more will come. Be empty of worrying. Think of who created thought. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? Move outside the tangle of fear thinking. Live in silence. Flow down and always, widening the rings of being.
Thank you, sir. Community of the spirit.
Yeah, it looks like what we.
Yeah, she said so. Yeah.
I didn't hear. It looks like a meditation.
I think exact thing, but it's like Indian.
Yeah, I knew the language, but I forgot the
Tamil.
name.
It's like meditation.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual sort of.
Yeah, affirmations, declarations.
And for me, I felt a little bit of like someone stuck in like an abusive relationship, you know, where it's like she moans.
For me, I see that somebody who is refusing to be
Leave.
free and then
Yeah.
just leave. And
It's actually all of
I
us.
felt like it was
All of
a
us
toxic
keep complaining
situation.
about stuff.
so many things. They just
And then you
forget.
try to
just-
change it, don't try to fix anything about
Restricting
it.
yourself. That's actually very good. I need to get back to it.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for taking us back. Any more takes? Dr. Kabura, any takes?
Yeah, I was whispering to Bash about some of the phrases that we need, and when I've written is open your hand.
Exactly. You can't just.
Yeah.
Yoruba will say, I want to ship out.
So I think the phrases we can really.
Let me put it on the camera.
It's not about
All right. No, that's Ruby. Thank you, Dr. Kabura. Thank you, Sarah. Any more takes before we move on to the next person?
The last thing to just say is everybody should read Room. Room
I
is
swear,
amazing.
like,
Yeah.
All right.
I used to be very.
Note to self, read for me. So KIS, you're up. And I
Why
don't
you
know the
laughing?
title. I don't know
So
the
I'm not
title.
talking about any poem or a book. I'm talking about an author.
Okay.
Yes, Thomas Hardy.
Oh.
Yes, like
Test of the who said that? Someone
he
said that.
reminded me of
No,
Test of the
someone said that
Bible.
he read that.
No, someone
That
said
was cool.
yeah, no,
We read
Oh,
Test of
okay.
Your Religion.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, when we were in school, yeah,
I
and
couldn't finish.
but for me,
So,
it was that was the book that introduced me to Thomas Hardy.
yeah, I couldn't
But
finish
along
it.
the way, my dad had lots of books, and I found all of his other Body Shepherd, Mayor of Casterbridge, Julius,
How
and
about Hand of Epibaka?
I didn't read that one. So I read 4 of them, and what I found in all of them is there will be this character who would make us to hate the person or love the person, and then proceed to deal with that person thoroughly, like Tess.
Yes.
Like this was it John in the Shepherd? I don't know what his name is again. You know, he makes this person suffer. I think when I was reading Shepherd, I actually broke the book because I hit the book against the wall. So I was alone in the room, and the book split into 2. That's how offensive and deeply, I don't know. The book is so terrible. The books are so terrible.
Yeah, no, because I did.
Mayor of Casterbridge, like a terrible mistake when you were drunk, followed him, became the richest man, became the poorest man, and you die outside your daughter's door trying to get into her wedding. Like the terrible, take him high and low, lose everything you own to one person, like everything you own to one person.
Yeah.
Your wife, your daughter, your wealth to the same single person. Like it's crazy. All because of one mistake you made when you were drunk many, many, many years ago. And then you go to Test of the Bible, the lady for compromising to be with that guy, and then he ruined her life.
From her father. It was
yes, from the
father.
beginning.
Her father just making that one mistake
Single
about
mistake.
the name, and then it
making a wrong name, choosing a wrong name, and then going to agree to work there, then choosing her dignity against, being disrespected, telling him the truth. Because of truth, just saying the truth, ruined her life permanently and led her to be hanged for no real offense of hers. And then you go to the Shepherd. This guy was so in love with the woman, and then unfortunately, life raised her status so suddenly, and she became so rich that she was beyond him. Someone that was beneath him and falling for him, now became above. And then he followed her till he lost everything being for her. So, like, I'm so fascinated with the quality of writing that despite the pain you experience, you can actually experience the pain of his work by yourself.
Yeah.
But you can't leave the work and say, no, I'm not reading anymore because
I did. I
followed through each of them. I will get offended and annoyed and angry, but I will still follow through. It reminds me a lot what is this book?
The Old Man and the Sea.
No. This what do you call it now? Of this guy who a woman took care of him, but was a thief he rescued from chains that was paying his money. Great Expectations. And I didn't finish the book. When the benefactor was arrested, I left the book. Yes. I left the book for almost 27 years.
Wow.
I did not read it. Yes, because when the man was arrested and I thought his pocketbook was with him, I don't want to know what happened again because he was trying to redeem a favor for many years ago, and then him trying to redeem him put him back to the place where he was freed from many years ago, and all the money he went to slave to get for the boy got taken away from him, and the boy who he was spending his life to repair, to help, got back to a poor man. So what was the point of their life, both of them? So
He didn't get the girl.
Yes, and he didn't get Estella. He didn't. So it's so crazy, and these books are so well written that look at how I can tell you everything that happened in those books that's many years back, and
so
I just want you people to also read them.
So I'm so glad you mentioned Tom Hardy because he's an author that because every once in a while I try to read a book from the canon and just force myself even with the diction and everything, but like I keep going to Tom and I keep not finishing. But then Tess was really like a huge a problem for me because I wanted to read this book, but then I had to go to the end, find out what happened, and I'm like, hell no, no way. And so instead, I became fascinated with Tom Hardy. And, after writing that book, he got exiled from his community. He had to leave. His wife hated him. It was like a whole thing. It wasn't just enough that he wrote the book, like the entire community excommunicated him from the society. And it's like the price that writers at the time paid to make something so good that now we come and then we read them and we find like so much inspiration from them. Same thing happened to Gatsby. You know, he didn't sell during his day, but then suddenly, like, you know, 21st century, everybody's reading Gatsby and they're falling in love. So like, yeah, so a lot of authors.
One thing about Thomas Abbey, he tries to expose the double standard of the society.
Yeah, just
through ordinary characters.
Yeah.
I think that's what his books are majorly about, just exposing the ills of the society.
Yeah.
Using unexpected characters. And it's basically about, it was about the Victorian society, the double standard of the Victorian society. And he does that so well. And
a maid, a shepherd, you know, a sharecropper. The mayor was a sharecropper. The one in the stairs, of course, was the maid.
Yeah.
And the shepherd was, the one in the shepherd was also a sheep herder. So they are actually, like you said, basic people. No major character, just weave the story around them.
All right, so note to everybody, please go and try to read Tom Hardy or read about him. If you can't finish the entire book like I did. The next person on our list is Davidson.
I'll take this book.
All right, Raphael, thank you.
Okay, I'm reading it very young.
Is it from a book?
Yeah, it's from a chapbook that
Okay,
was
so
published 2 years ago.
book, so then you give three.
This is a poem
minutes.
in the chapbook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, Divine Ian Titus.
Oh,
yeah, it published. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
The title of the book is
If you don't like the book, the publisher is in the house.
yes.
The title of the book is A
comments.
Beautiful Place to Be Born, and this poem is titled Before the Loss. I felt the laughter of the world, then its snaring fingers in my throat. In the end, all things dizzy to the same sleep. But before the loss, there will be seasoning, then pride. My eyes taught me how the truth could lie, like how they say hell is hot, when it's really a desert of iced out souls, and the devil is only our collective reflection. I was no longer friends with my breath, because it joined the wall to laugh at me. I know because it dared to deceive me, tiptoeing away from my shadowed frame and planting a fraud in my nostril with a deft hand. While I breathed lies, what did you do? You watched and scowled and thought you knew too much. I was hurt at first. My tears poured, then calcified. Then I forgave you because you did not understand. I began to learn to laugh with my exhausted soul. We shared those memories in cold liminal spaces as we talked about destiny. It made jokes about whips. I made jokes about crosses. Before we left, he told me that the manger is a beautiful place to be born when we are gone.
What's the name of the author again?
Divine Ian Titus.
I think I heard someone quote him that part where he said, he made jokes about whips, I made jokes about crosses. That was a really great show, really. Yeah.
And even the end.
Yeah, where he said that before we left, he told me that the manger is a beautiful place to be born where we are gone.
So why did you share that with us?
Because at the time he published it, he published it in, or rather, you published it in 2018 October, November-ish. We were just coming out of the lockdown and like probably one of the worst years of everybody's reality in recent times. So this is just an excerpt of a lot of what the chapbook carried. It was the emptiness and the frailty that our lives could be if we do not see essence. We do not see connectivity in ourselves. We don't hang out with each other. We do not, for any reason, have the chance to like
Physical connection.
yeah, physical connection and all of that. There's stories in it where he talks about a neighborhood where everybody was like really scared of the happenings, COVID and all of that. How there were like rumors of if someone coughs or if someone touches you, everybody would die. Yeah, like there were like people would just come and gather.
It was airborne, and so people were also.
Yeah, people just come and gather and sit, and if they see you go out and come back, you probably are the person nobody should ever talk to or even look at anymore, because probably from sight someone could die and all of that. So the poem in itself, from the title, For the Lost, it did, beginning in it, like some of the tenses he used told of how embarrassing being laughed at could be, but how empty you would feel if someone does not laugh or share a joke or something over time. Yeah, that's why just having other people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw one of the jokes that Sarah Buhari's husband shared during the time on his Instagram was this German professor releasing a press note saying that note that it's normal if you're talking to plants and your television and your radio, everything in your house, that it's normal if you're talking to them, but please contact us when they start to talk to you. And yeah, it was really, but that was the stage. True. Yeah, because a lot of people were reaching out to them saying that they were talking to their TV. And I think the Germany in itself had received a lot of complaints, so they had to release the press, like a statement to the people saying that, it's talking to them, it's fine, but when they start talking back to you, please call us. So that falls in line with that, losing human connection and what that reality looks like. So do we have any more tips before we move on? So Mariam texted me to say that she is canceling. Does anybody want to take her fix? Or have you changed your mind?
She has changed her mind. She's on canceling.
We do not want her to cancel. She's
on canceling.
She's the only person who can cancel.
Yeah.
So by popular demand, you wanna does anybody wants to take Mariam's space? No, he's already on the list. Someone who's not on the list. So
Raima.
All right, so next person is, oh, okay, you wanna, yes, it's fine.
Someone find her, please.
All right, so Tado.
I think I'll
Everybody's skipping.
short story and
You can just give us one page or two. Yeah.
Or talk about it.
No, that was only you. Yeah. So like the last page. You said concentration.
Yeah, that's
Okay. That's a game like that, yes?
Yeah. The game I always fall victim of.
Me, really? Brother.
No.
Brother house.
No.
yeah.
All right, so Tado is going on next.
Well, you're the winner, so can you bring them back? Go and ask. Huh? I want us to play one last round. If I win, you have to bring them back. Can you do it? She chuckled. No, I heard you guys discussion where you were praised for being good at this. Yes, I can bring them back. So, are you confident enough to keep me? Yes, I am. Then she grabbed his hands and said, "And if you lose, I'll keep you too, Abby." said a gentle voice and squeezed his hands together, like an old friend trying to pull a promise out of another. I agree, but I'll decide the category. Okay now, but it won't be the same as the other round. There will be no time limit. First person to delay or repeat or say the wrong word fails. Are you sure about it? No problem. You promise that you won't cheat. Have I been cheating this whole time? She brought her hands to her chest, smiling, as if amused by a wrong accusation. Okay. You can start whenever you need. Concentration, concentration. Concentration. Concentration, concentration. Names of Nollywood movies, names of Nollywood movies.
Witches.
Living in bondage. Things fall apart. Blood money. Glamour girls. Nneka the Pretty Serpent. Karishika. Oracle. Osofia in London. Sango. Aki and Popo. The Wedding Party. Rattlesnake. Stubborn Grasshopper. Kid Daddy. Diamond Ring. Merry Men. Sakaba. King of Boys. Igodo. End of the weekend. Suicide Mission. Evil Genius. Lost Star. 30 Days in Atlanta. Blackberry Babe. Blackberry Babe 2. Narrow the eyes at him, but without skipping a beat, she replied. Josie Ariana. Josie Ariana 2. Iron Man. Wakanda Forever. Kakino the Leather. Hear my bride can. Chelsea does give up. Friendly Scorpion. My daughter's the she said no money, no love. You may be the dirty girl. He going to pack. Drake Stone. Charlie Cat. Obama Bay. Tom and Jerry. Girls in the mood. Getting wrong girls. Asiri, he leaned forward looking at her with hidden eyes. Her name is Asiri. What? She grinned. Sharp teeth out. Not though, I'll just call it the name of the movie. Asiri, a word that meant spread in both Hausa and Yoruba. There had to be a movie out there at that time. That was his gamble. There's no movie called Asiri. He craned her leg backwards and stared into the screen. Her face a deadpan expression. You can check Google, Guvan asked. Guvan said, it's not necessary. There really is a movie called Asiri. She brought her head down and glared at him. Then she took a deep breath and began to clap. Clap, 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 clap. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. Said, wow, clap, continuously. Then she disappeared. Guvan looked at his friend in different lifeless posture. But then Charlie's finger spasmed and his body stirred. Slowly, so did the rest of them. And eventually, they all became conscious. Yeah. So, that's it.
Wow.
Thank you, Kado. Why do you want to share this with us?
It's not related to the most, it's the kind of story I like to write. About
All right, then. Thanks so much for sharing. There was a lot of, happy laughs.
Yeah.
Nostalgic.
It's a time
the
travel.
nostalgia.
Like, some were like going back in time, some were like
comedy, so it's like
I like how
Like,
invested you were in the Nigerian movie. That it shows that you
you had to Google it.
you're really
You had to
committed.
Google
Oh,
most
you
of them.
had to.
You did your research well,
Oh.
Abi.
Okay, because it just seems like the person was, aficionado.
He's trying to save his family name, his friend. If he doesn't find this, where will he save them?
their titles are just
And
terrible.
he knows
Yeah,
The worst of the lot.
Yes. Iron
Yes.
Then I think the Iron Pants. that was actually very
You go there.
I think that's whoa, exactly. Iron Pants was strong. It's not wooden pants. Iron Pants.
The Iron Pants.
And it felt like it was like a new like the more recent ones.
Yeah,
One of the
and
guy
some
was
of
like fully
the old,
occupied
yeah.
and
There's
stuff.
old Nollywood and a new Nollywood.
Right.
I like that there was a point where it felt like if someone says
No.
one, the other person will say pass. So like it felt like there must be
They're
pass.
just
So let me
Yes.
just, let me just,
Yes.
Let me just be saying
let me
them.
just say pass.
And it was like, let them get to the end before they started verifying, which ones were real and everything. Thanks so much, Shadow.
Okay, sorry. Importantly, I think what he actually did in that story that I love is more or less the depiction of the Nigerian culture. There are some people growing up that all this whole concentration.
I never played it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I watched
so,
it.
so for in quote, some of us that actually played that game, it's a bit interesting. Having to go into this story.
Yeah.
And I think the way he printed the whole scene, we at some point, the guy feels like, okay, Asiri, like, and he knows that, or he thinks that must be the title of the movie.
Yeah.
Because in Nigerian
Everything is a title.
exactly.
Everything is a title.
So it's really interesting the way he brings up the whole culture. And I would really love to read the whole story.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you,
I beg.
Shadow. The next person on our list is Obi.
Hi, my name is Kaya. Oh, my God, what's your point?
Oh, that name. The other name.
Ovayo.
Yeah.
Ovayo.
Over Igbera.
Okay. I'm going to be reading a piece written by my friend. He forgot you wrote. Oh, and I really, really like it. I can't get it. Okay.
So what's the name of the? No, I mean like the
message.
Yeah, the funny. So we can look for him.
Teslim.
And we might.
Teslim.
Yes.
This is the Balogun.
Remove the Balogun, just put the Teslim in it.
Okay. I think after a certain age, the answer to how old are you stops being a number and becomes a phrase. How old are you? Too old enough to care. How old are you? Too old for this shit. Little known fact, this is the only age you pass through with more than once in life. How old are you? Too old to stay single. How old are you? I don't have time. I have to go and pick up. How old are you? Isn't it about time you started thinking about moving out of this? How old are you? I went to school translated by Nigerian. How old are you? Your mom and I are selling the house and moving to Florida next year. How old are you? I've got medication for every day. The kids never call anymore. And frankly, I think you young people are trying to change too much. How old are you? None of the 4G stuff when I was younger. We had dialogue. Do you know what that's? Well, let me tell you. This conversation will go on to at least another 3 hours. How old are you? Too old for this shit.
Thank you.
That was good.
Oh, you not understand that this is a nice one.
Abi.
Thank you so much. Amy. Thank you so much. And please remind your friend that this was a really, it's really, you should remember that he wrote this. It was nice. Any more takes?
I like that it progressed. So, like, it felt like the first how old are you was for someone in their early 20s. Then,
It
like,
moves it like, yeah.
like then the age just started going up and up.
Chronological flow.
Yeah. It wasn't jumping around. It just
Yeah.
I really like
I
that.
sort of like just realized that the people, it was like a combination of people who have frustrated with that question, and a lot of times they had like a direct response to like maybe what led to it, like the person asking them in an insulting sense where they're trying to like prove a point about their age, and it was just a combination of all of this.
And I like the way it ended the way it started. Like the whole thing was pointless. Explaining the whole idea of how old are you is even, I'm too old to even explain that.
Yeah.
And it had like a standalone line sort of that I liked, where the older person said you young people are trying to change too much.
Too fast.
Yeah, don't drop that one. We noticed that one.
So if you're up.
I don't know. prominent today, but so yeah, I'm going to just reading the end of the story. So I picked this one because most of my short stories are usually
Long.
very long. No, not like long, but like usually like childhood memories and all that. And my grandma had a lot to do with that with childhood memories. And I picked this one because this was the end. And in it being the end, she wanted to make me into the man that she wanted to fashion me out of that city boy, like making me the man, like speaking native language, being a strong man, standing up for yourself, not crying because only girls are supposed to cry. So this was when I and my sister met her there in the apartment. So I'll just read the end of it. Mommy, a voice called from behind me, bringing me back to my reverie. I turned to the familiar voice, wondering how long my mom had been standing by the door. Mommy, she called again, the bag and drugs in her hands slipping and crashing to the floor. The look in my mom's eyes was terrifying as she dropped to her knees, crawling towards my grandma, tears glistening in her eyes. Nnem, because yen, she sobbed, please don't do this to us. A heart-wrenching wail in anger soon followed. Neighbors soon began to trickle into the house. Our pastor was called, and he soon arrived to open prayers. Everyone around had their hands full, consoling my mother and sister. Some just expressing their condolences and leaving after. All this time, I refused to move a muscle at my position beside my grandma. She still looked so peaceful. Why shed so much tears for someone so peaceful? Grandma, I will not cry. I whispered to her, boys don't cry. I waited for the flickering of her eyelids or any movement at all to display evidence of the pride I was certain she felt, but nothing. Ify, come here, someone said, placing a hand on my shoulder. I still do not move. Please, some of you should come and help. Let's carry her body into the car to the mortuary. The pastor announced from somewhere across the room, close to my mom's waiting. Turning deaf ears to the objections, I touched her in a bid to help the men around me lift her. Grandma will like that, being a man amongst men. I was not prepared for the cold, lifeless feeling that hit me. Looking down at her, she no longer looked so peaceful, but gone. Grandma, please come back. Blinking back tears begin to sting the back of my eyes. Grandma, please. Kneeling beside her, don't make me cry like a girl. Yeah, so I picked this because even at I think this has to do with a lot of I don't know why it's still the training that we get back in girls, maybe to now somewhat. That even at death, you're still trying to impress and you're still trying not to cry. I even till I buried herself, I still
Didn't cry.
I didn't cry until our body went to the ground and I broke down. But I felt really sick and was my mother kept begging me to cry. But I said grandma will not like it. And so I just thought just go from there.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes. I had same experience. I had same experience when my dad died, and although when he died, I wasn't in the hospital with him. I just got into the town when the thing happened. So when I got to the hospital, that was when they told me that he had already passed away. I saw my sisters and their mom crying. Everybody. I just walked into the ward. I walked into the room, saw him lying down there. I didn't even notice anything. They said we should carry him to the morgue, and we carried him to the morgue. It was until the day of the burial when they said I should pour the sand that it hit me. But yes.
Yeah. That's why I was just 13 then. So
it is when they said I should pour the sand that it now hit me that okay, yes. I'm not seeing this person again.
Su'eddie.
Okay, let me just rush this since it's already.
You don't have to rush at the last person.
Basic concept for these people, it's around Christmas, and these people have met in a park somewhere. It's a kind of Ifeanyi-ish story.
All right.
The kind of story Ifeanyi would write, or the kind of thing in Gorichindere.
I think I suspect that story.
So, would you mind coming to my house for dinner? Sorry, this should be a feminine voice. Would you mind coming to my house for dinner? Probably at 6 o'clock or slightly later. There are final meals for Christmas I think we can try, she said with a slight smile. That's if you don't mind, of course. Me, mind. What are you talking about? Give me the address already, and I'm as good as there. I smiled, already guessing she would serve me fried rice and salad, not plain white rice and fish. She laughed, and then I heard my phone beep. I opened it and saw a text message from her with the address. It was a place I was familiar with. You're not even that far, and yet I've not been seeing you. How about? I stayed with my uncle. We'll talk when you come. I'll be expecting you, okay? Me, I won't miss it for anything. She stood up to leave, and I accompanied her to the gates. I waited in the park for a few minutes after she left to catch my breath and control my excitement. Then I went home to get ready for my date, monitoring the clock till it was time. I stepped out without letting my father know where I was headed. When I arrived at her door, darkness had closed the evening. It extended as far as inside her home because there had been a power outage in her neighborhood. Wheeland soon brought a candle that cast a slight warm glow across the spacious sitting room. There was sparse furniture, 2 cities facing each other, a table in the center, and a TV that might have been bought in 1980 for all I knew. The scene was somewhat romantic. We sat down and looked at each other for some awkward minutes. We soon launched into a conversation while we leisurely sipped the drinks she had served. I silently wondered when the promised dinner would arrive, as I had not eaten all day. She told me she had lost her father, necessitating her transfer to another school. She had no friends and lived with her uncle, was hardly ever around. I kept on still waiting for the food. But to fill time, I said, it must be lonely for you, straining my nose, but not perceiving any aroma in the thick hot air. I felt like my stomach would soon begin to rumble. It gets lonelier when I'm close to my period, she replied in a sultry tone. I did not quite get that part, so I nodded and sipped my drink. She moved closer to me now. I turned to look at her. She was wearing a pink silk gown that matched the mood of the evening. My stomach rumbled and I resisted the urge to ask if the food was ready. We had a few more drinks, and without knowing how, we found ourselves in her bedroom. She pulled me close to her and traced a fine line down my spine with her fingernails while rubbing the expanse of my back slowly like a skilled potter caressing clay. I felt a protrusion in my trousers as I trembled with the fire of the novice. I was bothered about what to do. She began to take her clothes off. Suddenly and inexplicably, I felt some pain in my ear. In a few seconds, my brain connected the reason why. The first time my father discovered my early morning erection, he had called me and preached that he did not want any bastard babies. He had pinched my ears for so long while he spoke that at that moment in Wheeland, my ears began to relieve the pain. Daddy, please, I shouted. What? She sat up, trembling. Stop this thing you are doing, I blurted at her. Wheeland froze. I'm sorry, I said. It is nothing, she replied quietly. Her disappointment echoed in the silence that followed, like all of us here. She put her clothes back on and adjusted herself. She led the way back to the sitting room, where the candle had nearly burnt out. We stayed in silence for a while, as I thought of how the day had quickly changed its passing. To think that someone had said that a leopard does not change its spots in old age. If only the person could have seen how many times my day had changed. Then the door opened with some force. Uncle Panduve, good evening, Wheeland greeted as I stood up respectfully to greet the gangly figure who was her uncle. He was 6 feet and some extra inches tall, lanky with an alcohol stench that got to me from where he stood. Young man, how may I help you? He asked. Merry Christmas, sir. I said, how may I help you? He growled. Sir, I just came to sing with you and my old classmate were voting. He moved away and stepped into the inner parts of the house. I sat with some uncertainty as Nguyen came close to me and touched my left arm gently, maybe as some assurance. I had heavy thoughts in the seconds that followed and jumped to my feet. Her uncle was in the sitting room again with something in his hand. As I tried to figure out what it was, something that had the universe's weight landed in the center of my head. Whoa! My head split into a million pieces of pain. I felt myself melting into the ground, but knew that I did not have the luxury of crumbling helplessly to the floor. I shot up like a bird in full flight and disappeared to the other side of the spacious living room. Nguyen wrestled with her uncle to get the stick, but he was too strong for her. He pushed her off and then stomped towards me. The candlelight died in that second, and I closed my eyes to match the darkness, steeling myself for what pain would come next. Ayo! I heard her uncle's voice cry out, and I imagined her biting him. Run! Sang her voice with some urgency, followed by a cry of pain. I wanted to follow the sound of her voice to pick her up or something, but her voice rang out again. Run! I somehow teleported to the door and flew out by some uncanny sense of navigation. I had no sooner stopped to rest after a while when I heard the wind pass over with a whoosh. I looked up to discover that it was Willa's uncle's stick that had flown overhead. I did not wait for a second more before I jumped up and became one with the breeze, my feet nearly touching the back of my head in the wildest sprint I had ever done. My assailant was soon breathless while I increased the space between us, zigzagging through small streets till I found my way home. A new worry gnawed at me as I got close to my house. It was utterly dark, and my father hated it when I came home late. I started conjuring numerous reasons why I was late as I waited out long enough to catch my breath and regain calm. I met my father sitting in the sitting room, eating rice and chicken that some neighbor had probably brought. Good evening, sir, I greeted, trembling slightly and half expecting him to spring upon me. Good evening, chairman. How has your day been? Have you eaten? He asked calmly, tearing apart a juicy-looking chicken lamp. I shook my head slowly, but his head was down as he walked on his food with ferociousness. After a while, he looked up then and said, well, get another spoon, or do you want to eat with your hands? I mumbled an answer, thanked him, and quietly went to the kitchen to get a spoon. Later, I picked up an ice bag from the freezer to nurse my hurting head. It ached badly, and every small sound seemed like an echo. I needed some silence, but the bloody knockouts blasting outside as boys in the neighborhood had fun ensured that it was not to be. I wondered if any of them had had an adventure or if it had just been another regular Christmas. As I lay in bed, I tried to reimagine the evening events and wondered how Nguyila was doing. My warrior lady in no armor. A picture of her bosom and lovely curves flashed through my mind, but I quickly pushed it away. I hoped she was okay and not in too much trouble. I got my phone out, sent her a text, and waited for a reply till somehow I fell asleep. In the end. The what?
Is that by you?
Yes, but it's not in the public domain yet.
All right. Thanks so much for sharing, Su'eddie. And Su'eddie was our last person on the list. But because this is a special pre-festival event, I will be sharing. So to end the night, I will be sharing something as well, since it's a special event, and because it's not written by me. Just because it's a spirit of sharing, and because Rafael reminded me of the COVID state. So this is called Living Early. It's by Aida Oluwagbemiga, and once I'm done with the poem, I'll explain why. My love, tonight, Eniola is your nurse. You will hear her voice sing song around the world, lifting a wing at the shore of your darkness. I heard that in another life, she too journeyed through a storm, a kind of curse, with the ocean rising darkly around her. Fierce, with cold, and no resting place, only the frozen rocks that tore her feet, the light on her shoulders, and no cure there but to wait it out. If while I'm gone, your fever comes down, if the small, soft, leaden shakes of her song appear to you as the first glimmer of earth light, follow the sweet, hopeful voice of that landing. She will keep you safe beneath her wing. So this is Living Early by Aida Oluwagbemiga. She's an Irish poet, and she wrote this poem while her husband was in a coma during the COVID stage, and his brain had a parasite that left him in a coma for 3 weeks. And so while leaving, she trusted, like she wrote this poem because I think when someone is sick and you love them and you have to go do something, you feel guilty that you're going to go with them. And so she wrote this feeling guilty, but also sort of consoling herself and the man that she was leaving him in the hands of someone who was going to care for him. And then it's supposed to be a poem about this woman who's leaving the husband with a nurse, but then she ends up bringing the story of the Fanula, because his nurse's name was Fanula, and then she got in the story of Fanula. When I heard this poem the first time, there was some element of recognition to the story she was saying. I don't know if many of us remember that the Irish, they have all these myths, and there was this particular princess who was cursed to be a swan, she and her brothers, and so she had to stay through various stormy lakes in Ireland for 400 years before the curse was lifted. So in that sense, she was trying to tell the man that, okay, so this is someone who has actually journeyed through so much as well. And after, she has experienced enough pain to be able to be the kind of person that can usher you to the life that will bring you back home. So I love the Irish people, and I love how they're like a home of like history, myths, and so much folklore. And it just brought me back to that culture a bit, and so I wanted to share it because it was written in that COVID sense. And especially because at the time, nurses couldn't really, they had to take care of people. And her talking about the nurse instead of just leaving the husband was a very nice twist. So on that note, thank you everyone for coming. And I hope you've gotten your tickets for the...
I was just wondering if it's possible for us to come together or something.
Yes, definitely. But this is just to end the night. So basically, I hope you've gotten your Elite Pass tickets. We're starting with a play on Sunday by DK, who is actually graced us at the back. So you can get your tickets at the event.
Never worship. Never worship. Buy your tickets. Buy your tickets.
You will not understand the song.
So thank you, Su'eddie, for joining us.
If you've not watched it before, you will not understand.
Yeah, make sure you join the writing class on Monday. I'm taking it. So
so Elite
I will not join.
you must.
I will not join. I know you join.
If I don't see
So
you, I will take attendance.
For all of us who are still new to the literary festival, it's a week-long event. Starts on Sunday with a play. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There are lots of workshops there. There's one for animation, one for poetry, writing, and so much more. And then on Friday, there's going to be a grand slam. So if you've been, trying to show your poetry skills, that's the best place for you to come. And on Saturday, the closing show. On Saturday, there's a book fair and so much more. There's a lot of things happening.
Probably
on
the
Saturday.
best way you start your October.
Yes, with the literary festival.
The whole of the week.
Yeah.
Book fair as well.
It's on the 8th, and then there's a closing ceremony with the fashion
Like the
show,
fashion show and also
music concerts. Yes.
But it's probably going to be
So get your tickets, guys, and thank you to everybody who joined us online as well.
KS is on one of the.
So see you guys on Sunday.
I wouldn't know.
And we can
just someone else doesn't.
Sir, please can we do a group picture if you guys don't mind?
Thank you. Good night.
As long as I did one. She's doing it on